forgot my gun. Daddy, I forgot my gun. I suck. I suck.
It's okay.
You don't suck, sweetheart.
Here, hon, why don't you just use mine?
Mr. Ladomas, Mr. Ladomas, I just saw her running.
Oh my God! Oh!
Why does this always happen to me?
Okay, calm down.
Have you ever sat down to watch a horror movie, all excited for the absolute terror-inducing, bone-chilling film you're about to experience, but found that when the plot kicks in and the killer starts killing, it's actually kind of funny? Horror films, specifically slashers, are known for their tropes. The haunted house, the psycho killer, the virginal final girl that outlives all of her sex-having friends because she reads books or something, I don't know. Carol J. Clover breaks down the structure of these tropes. Quote, "The victim is a beautiful, sexually active woman. The location is not home, but a terrible place. The weapon is something other than a gun. The attack is registered from the victim's point of view and comes with shocking suddenness." Anyone familiar with the horror genre instantly recognizes these elements. They're the comfort food of film structure, the gold standard of story beats, the rules of horror, if you will. The problem is that these rules or tropes, while comforting in structure to viewers, are known to be kind of, extremely misogynistic. Linda Williams cites an identification with a non-specific male killing force and writes that the audience association with the killer, quote, "displaces what was once the subjective point of view of the female victim onto an audience that is now asked to view the body of the woman victim as the only visible monster in the film." In other words, in these films, the recognition and affinity between woman and monster of the classic horror film gives way to pure identity. She is the monster. Her mutilated body is the only visible horror. So we watch intently as whatever phallically shaped weapon of choice our killer has chosen to use brutalizes innocent women. So why am I talking about laughing during these moments? It's because of this guy. And also this guy. Hell yeah, baby, we're talking about Scream. By the 1990s, the slasher genre wasn't in a great place. There had been 6 Halloween movies, 7 Nightmare on Elm Streets, and a whopping 9 Friday the 13th installments, which were all just about as good as we would expect them to be. The formula was laid, the misogynist tropes were ever present, and audiences knew what was coming every time. Then 1996 rolls around and a little unknown flick called Wes Craven's Scream is released in theaters. It was modern, scary, engaging, and guess what else? Funny. Scream took every single trope under the sun and flipped it on its head, using satire as a way to dissect the rules of horror and keep audiences on their toes. It uses this thing called intertextuality, which is described on the very trustworthy internet as, quote, "the interconnection between similar or related works of literature that reflect and influence an audience's interpretation of the text." Basically, this means it's got a shit ton of references to other horror movies and is extremely self-aware of the tropes, or rules, that are present in them.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex. No! Big no-no! Big no!
I'm a dead man.
Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. No, the sin factor. It's a sin. It's an extension of number 1. And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, "I'll be right back." Because you won't be back.
One specific rule that Scream does a great job of hilariously subverting is that of the final girl and the gays. No, not those gays. The gays. Capital M, capital G, male gays. Dun dun dun. Enter the one and only, the woman, the myth, the legend, Sidney Prescott. Clover writes about the final girl in a typical slasher, quote, "She is the Girl Scout, the bookworm, the mechanic. Unlike her girlfriends, she is not sexually active." But not our girl Sidney. Not in Scream.
Look, here comes the obligatory tit shot.
Ignoring the fact that she's unknowingly having sex with a psychopath, Wes Craven specifically calls out the male gaze present in other horror movies in this scene by actively preventing the obligatory tit shot and making fun of it. Many final girls in previous slashers, like Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie in Halloween, were centered in films and allowed to survive because of their perceived lack of sexuality and their purity. However, because of the satirical tone of Scream, Sidney is given power over these tropes. She is extremely self-aware and in tune to the misogyny of horror films and sees herself above their poor depiction of women. Earlier in the movie, Sidney talks to Ghostface on the phone for the first time.
Come on, you know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared?
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Where a typical horror film would use this as an opportunity to build tension and terror at the expense of the woman in order to show how powerful the killer is, Sidney doesn't buy it.
Can you see me right now? Okay. What am I doing?
She refuses to play the game. She makes fun of him.
What am I doing?
And comedy is using Scream to give characters power over the killer. And now, speaking of games, this brings us to the next film I believe uses satire as a way to flip horror tropes on its head, and that is 2019's Ready or Not, directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett.
You ready for this?
Oh, fuck no.
Ready or Not follows Grace, a newlywed who is hunted by her husband's extremely wealthy family as part of a wedding night ritual, which I assume is just normal rich people behavior. The family is under the impression that if Grace survives until sunrise, all their fortune will disappear and they'll die. This is because of some deal with the devil that is more or less believed between family members. And although Ready or Not focuses primarily on satirizing class, the comedy of the film does very much give Grace an opportunity to become a very unique and dynamic final girl. When she is told by her husband Alex that his family will be hunting her, Grace isn't turned into this boyish, as Clover would say, militarized hero in the vein of Ripley from Alien. She's still herself, funny, terrified, and unsure, but competent all the same.
Jesus.
She doesn't adapt to this look for herself. She doesn't play the game that the family wants her to play. She survives.
He's stupid enough.
She takes control of the situation, much like Sidney, and perseveres. By the end of the film, Grace has almost made it through the night. There's a moment when she must face her husband Alex and find out if his loyalties lie with her or with his family.
You won't be with me after this, will you?
Linda Williams writes, quote, "The woman's look can only function to entrap her further within these patriarchal structures of seeing." And in this scene, Grace realizes this.
Ugh.
She's in here!
Alex's betrayal is upsetting to watch, but it's not a shock. Ready or Not makes clear that generational wealth and family ties die hard, and the patriarchal power structures within them do as well. But if you think that Olpin and Gillett are fine with letting these ideas prevail, you're wrong. Apparently, the deal with the devil was real, and Grace made it till sunrise. She gets to laugh in the face of her husband in my favorite scene of the entire film.
What the fuck?
Alex pretends that he didn't just try and sacrifice his wife to the devil and begs for Grace's forgiveness, but she laughs and denies him.
Don't leave me, honey. Honey, I'm really sorry. I don't want to die.
Neither did I, you selfish fuck.
No, I'm not like them. I'm not like them. I'm not like them. No, you made me better, honey. And he's not taking me, right? I get a do-over, sweetie. And that's because of you. Yeah? Sweetie? Grace, I'm really scared.
Don't fucking touch me.
No, okay.
Alex.
Yeah.
I want a divorce.
Although Ready or Not and Scream are very different films, both use comedy as a way to empower their final girls and flip misogynistic tropes on their head. And they make murder funny, which is something that I very much appreciate.
Careful. This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
Not in my movie.